And today is a special day. Besides the fact that it's really cold, is because we have a special guest in the studio. Her name is Oluwaseufumi Arasi. Did I pronounce the surname well?
Yes.
Okay, I did. All right. So she's here. She's a monitoring and evaluation officer at the Youth Empowerment Foundation Nigeria (YEF). She's here to have a chat with us concerning the issue of youth empowerment in Nigeria.
Yes, indeed. Oluwaseun Fumi is going to be speaking to us on a range of issues around young people, and she's in a very good position to do that, as that's what she does on a daily basis, work with young people, particularly in terms of skill acquisition. Now, don't forget that Monday was Youth Skill Acquisition Day, so World Youth Skill Acquisition Day, and was an opportunity to highlight the importance of young people gaining skills, being multi-skilled. And one of the things we talk about in Nigeria, particularly for young people who've gone through the educational system, is that they are not employable. So perhaps they have the educational background and foundation, but in terms of certain skills ready for the workplace, they are not equipped in that way. So I think the first thing I would want to speak to you about, or the first question I would like to ask you, Fumi Arasi, is just to give us a general overview of the skill set of Nigeria, young people in Nigeria, following your work with them. So you've seen a number of young people walk through your doors and you have experience in working with young people. How would you describe the skill set of Nigerian youth?
Are they lazy? Like they're described?
Let's debunk that myth today.
Please, we need to stay out of that expression if Nigerian youth are lazy or not this morning, because we really are not lazy.
Good.
Okay, Nigerian young people generally in Nigeria, um, they they just know what they're taught in school, and then they're far from soft skills, far from employability skills.
Soft skills.
They're just doing.
For the avoidance of doubt, sorry to interrupt, what are soft skills? What all would you describe as soft skills?
There's skills that help you to cope with life, with work, to stay in, to get and stay in a job.
Okay, so examples.
Okay. Um, like like
I know some work etiquette is part of it. So being able communication skills.
communication
instance,
skills
yes.
key. Communication skills key. Negotiation skills, goal setting,
Teamwork,
assertiveness,
team building, yeah.
team building, time management.
Yes.
Such and such we have, and okay, maybe because we work with children in public schools.
Okay.
We work with children in public schools.
That's actually really
interesting.
important.
That's very interesting. But first, I'd like to remind our listeners, because we understand that most people are tuning in for the first time today. To join this conversation, you can watch on YouTube. Just type Smooth FM, Smooth 981 FM Lagos in the search box on YouTube, or just type youtube.com/Smooth 981 FM Lagos to join the conversation and watch us live in the studio. WhatsApp is 0809 444 0981. We're also on Twitter at Smooth981FM.
Use the hashtag Lagos Talks 981. As we mentioned earlier on, we're speaking to Oluwaseun Fumi Arasi from Youth Empowerment Foundation, and it's in line with the fact that Monday was the United Nations World Youth Skills Day, and on that day, the United Nations highlighted the importance of skill development and skill set, particularly for young people. And as we bring it back home to Nigeria, we look at the fact that it's been said that a number of young people finish school and are not employable because they do not have the skills ready for the workplace. And Sean, for me, I'm glad that you've talked to us about what you feel is, in terms of soft skills, not the young people being able to gain soft skills, and particularly in the public schools. I know you say that you work with public schools, school children. However, I'm sure that you have encounters with people in the private sector. So how would you what are the differences? Do you think that the gap is wide when it comes to the skills that a young person who's gone to a private school in Nigeria has gained compared to someone who has gone through the public school system?
What have you noticed? Is there a difference?
In Lagos,
Okay.
the gap is not that wide, but there is a gap.
Mm.
Okay, but it's not that wide. I can say.
What sort of gap In what areas? Because I wouldn't want to assume that it's a
Yeah.
general
Mm.
gap per se.
Mhm. Okay. In terms of knowledge on academic knowledge on interpersonal relationships, social
Mm-hmm.
knowledge on social skills
Mhm.
and all,
Mm.
extracurricular, not
Mm.
that wide.
Mm.
Because we also have extracurricular activities in government schools and in
Yes.
the public schools,
Mm.
just as we have in private schools.
Mm.
I can even say
Mm.
not all private schools are that vast in
Mm.
extracurricular as we have in government schools.
Mm.
Because in government schools, it is statutory.
Okay.
There are time allocated to that in their timetable
Mm.
Okay.
In government schools.
in government schools.
Okay, so it's seen at the time, like you've established that the government schools makes provision for these skills to be acquired, especially the soft skills. But I noticed there's a huge gap. Sometimes now that this is subjective to the company or the persons involved in recruitment, you find that certain people would feel. You can beg to differ, if you may, but certain people are more inclined to employ the one are gonna IJGBs. I just got backs
Mhm.
that have accents, that probably schooled abroad or had some experience with, maybe expert children or some sort of exposure in the private space and maybe schooled abroad over those who schooled in Nigeria and gained education through the public system. What would you say is the major factor? Is it just the communication skills or does it go beyond that?
It goes a lot beyond that, and I like to bring our attention to the categories you've just mentioned. We have people from abroad. Schooled abroad is different from schooled in Nigeria private school, and then different from schooled in Nigeria public school.
So there are three categories
I'm
now.
telling you,
Okay.
because really, schooled in private, if you've gone to private school in Nigeria and public school, you've still gone through our Nigeria educational system, except the highbrow schools that run strictly British
American
curriculum or American curriculum.
Mm.
Those are, of course, we know they're a little different from the average private school
Yes.
in Nigeria.
Mm.
Okay, those from abroad who schooled abroad, of
Mm.
course,
Mm.
there's something else. And the difference, what we have there and here is, in Nigeria, education system is we're spoon fed, like we say when we're in school.
Garbage in, garbage
Garbage in,
out.
garbage out.
Mhm.
La crème, la pour, la write, la forget. That's the kind of thing that we do in Nigeria. And
Please
because
say that again. I missed. I would like to repeat that for someone
Honestly,
today.
this is the first time
La
I'm hearing
crème.
la pour,
Uh-huh.
that's right down.
Uh-huh.
La crème, la pour, la forget.
Uh-huh.
That's after you've written the exams, then you're done with it.
Yes.
And then we do not really retain the knowledge.
Mm.
And that's why people who've gone through the school system cannot come out and reproduce what they have learned,
Okay.
because it was not they did not go through it like being part of them. Emphasis is on examinations, the
Mhm.
scores, give in, garbage in, garbage out. Just
Yeah.
we're spoon fed.
Yeah.
Unlike what we have in some other countries, developed countries, it's a lot more than what you're given.
Mm.
There is a lot of creativity. There is
Yes, it's encouraged.
it encourages creativity. It
Mm.
encourages breaking
Yeah.
the rules, breaking
So
history.
you'd say that one of the challenges we have when it comes to skill sets in young people is the system of education and the way that our curriculum has been developed.
Exactly.
It doesn't develop innovation, it doesn't encourage innovation, doesn't encourage our young
Exactly.
people to think outside the box.
The box.
Okay.
Let's take a break on that note. We'll be back to continue this conversation. Just a very short break. If you're just joining us, it's Lagos Talks 981. Our conversation is around skills acquisition for youth in Nigeria. Stay with us on Smooth 98.1.
Huh?
You're listening to Smooth Breakfast.
Short break. Or how do you want to do it?
What?
How do you want to do it?
What time is it?
No, it's not 9:15 till that they say we should be doing this break.
Oh my God.
I think it's
They need to
9:15.
Just send us a detailed email.
I remember they said probably just 9:15,
Oh.
9:30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's around that window. So.
That's how I was talking.
I like where the conversation is going.
Okay.
In fact, I do business with people who, some people who feel like, when you hear all these people, I want to Ghana. That's in fact that was a quote from one person. I said,
Wanna Ghana.
"These are Wanna Ghana." I sit down, I was like, I don't feel like they are convincing enough. Beyond the accent, what can you offer?
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So,
Mm-hmm.
some people are just sometimes blinded by
The packaging.
appearance and the packaging. So we'll get to that. To that. See what I'm doing?
Oh.
It's gonna land on that.
What did you do? Oh, you put another thing?
No, it's going to land on that.
Well, you don't want to. I think we've talked a lot, but you sure don't want to put music in.
Studio going on. Right, Sarah. Glad to know you're there. You're listening to Smooth 98.1. This is a segment of the breakfast show, the Smooth Breakfast. That's it. That is with me, Valentine.
And I am Myra Essay.
And we're joined by a special guest. Her name is Oluwaseun Fumi Arasi. She's the mentoring and monitoring rather, and evaluation officer at the Youth Empowerment Foundation of Nigeria, YEF. She's here to have a very spirited conversation on skills acquisition for youth in Nigeria and the attention or lack of it that it has enjoyed or suffered from. Monday was the United Nations World Youth Skill Acquisition Day. So in light of this, we're having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
So we'd encourage you to send your message through WhatsApp 0809-444-0981. On Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM. The hashtag is Lagos Talks 981. You can also watch us live on YouTube as we're streaming. Seun Fumi, you've asked me to call that name. I'll call you by that name. We were talking before the break where, X-raying the different categories, three different categories I've established, among the youth in Nigeria, in terms of those educated within the system. So you said the people who pass through the public education system, private education, and those who schooled abroad.
Yeah. And
going through these categories, we know there are different levels of competency in terms of skills that they can offer to employers of labor. We find that these skills are, when would you say, as an employer, for instance, now for employers who are listening to the show, when would you say, this might be an altruistic question for human resources, for instance, is a good time to convince yourself of the skills that are presented or the skills that each of these categories possess? Should they be judged based on the education they got? For instance, from these three categories, should that be considered, or should they be allowed to show what they have or the skills that they have?
From the perspective of an employer,
Yeah.
I think you rather allow them show what they have. It's not just about the qualification, so to say, or the certificates they're presenting, but the skills, what you can do. It's not what I know, what I can do.
But how would you know?
And that's why the recruitment process and activities involved should be able to generate this such feedback and responses. I think we now have the recruitment centers, so it makes you do. They engage these people in conversations, in group work to test their teamwork, team relationship, how to relationship build and all that, and then they can see. Of course, you can't see all. It's always, you can't see all. You can't know all, but you can deduce from one or two things these people are doing that this one has this one has that. I think it's more valid than just presenting certificates. Of course, we know in Nigeria we're crazy about certificates.
Yes.
You just acquire so much online.
Paper-driven society.
Oh my goodness! And then just acquire all, and then it makes you feel confident. We derive our confidence and achievement on that, which is not really good good enough.
Especially when you see youth who've gone through educational system, finish secondary school,
Yeah.
quickly rush them into university.
University.
After university, first degree, quickly they push them to do their
Second
masters and then
degree,
PhD and all.
All right, let's go back to the genesis of what you have found to be some of the challenges and why we have enough, so many underskilled young people in Nigeria. Because where I'm hoping to head to is interventions, because I know part of what your organization does is intervention to empower young people through skill acquisition. So the first aspect of that I would love for you to answer is the challenges, why we have so many young people who do not have skills, ready for the workplace or skills for life as well, and then interventions in place. And hopefully we'll break that down. Government intervention, private sector intervention, organizations like yours, NGO intervention to ensure that we have a thriving youth populace in Nigeria.
Okay.
So the first part is challenges.
The challenges. We've been working with young people for a number of years, and then we realized that their focus is just read and pass and move on. And of course, we know it's now beyond, a lot beyond that. They do not think about, some of them don't even know what it takes to become what they want to become. They don't even know how to become what they want to become.
Yeah.
They just want to be, for example, an engineer. What should you do to be an engineer? I don't know. I just want to be an engineer. Okay, sometimes some of them know, okay, I'll just be a science student. I'll go to science class. And what subject, which particular aspect of engineering? Just mention some things and then you're like, wow,
Just
really?
engineer.
Just engineer. And then you can see they need a lot more, and they don't even know what it takes to be an engineer. The skills, the natural skills and talent and likes that they would tell that you will thrive in the field of engineering. I mean, what are those things that make you comfortable and to even learn the skills of engineering? So they don't even know. And so you find someone who does not like figures and yes, want to be an engineer. Someone who doesn't like messes, dirt, and then you still want to be an engineer because you want to, dress in that coat and lab, whatever.
Or probably just to be described as an engineer.
The accolades that accompany that profession, and then that is what they're quite shallow on the different fields of engineering. Some of them don't even know the not so popular careers or career paths because you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. What else?
All right. So I mean, people are saying that that's changing though. So during our time, we had parents who wanted you to be one of those three professions. Now we see parents who are more open to you being a footballer because there's money in football, being a model, being a broadcaster, being things that if you want to study mass communication, it's because you didn't get your admission to law. So you then settle for mass communication. You wanted to be a footballer, it's because you were lay around and you just happen to be scouted. But now parents are actually paying money to groom their children to be musicians, to be actors, actors and actresses. So maybe the narrative is changing, perhaps, do you think? Or do you think that it's still the doctor, lawyer, engineer?
It's changing among the knowledgeable. It's changing within the class, maybe let's say middle class to the upper class. It's not yet very different in the lower class.
Okay.
Because they feel what it takes for their wards or children to succeed is when he becomes a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. Now that football is thriving, I can say that even the lower class wants the children to be footballers.
Even
they
music.
want them to be musicians.
Because they're sending
of
them
course.
to these reality shows to blow.
Of course, to blow. You either want to do the music. They necessarily do not want to study music in school or be educated in school
Yeah.
to do music,
Mm.
just start singing,
Yeah.
just sing, and then you make the money and then you blow,
Mm.
because there is so much attention on those professions now. But talking about professions in between,
Mm.
like hidden, that
Mm.
are not very popular,
Mm.
we don't really see them doing that. We don't see parents encouraging them. Okay, we do sports in some of our programs, and then we engage some of the girls in football. Okay, I must say that we work a lot with girls
Mm.
more than boys.
Why?
Although
Why
we
the
do-
preference for gender?
Although we do both sometimes, but a lot more of girls.
Mm. But okay, not to put you on the spot, but I'll come
No,
back.
no, no.
I'll come
We're
back
not,
to that
you're not
question.
even putting me on the spot.
Mm.
The girls are way behind,
Mm.
and we are putting all our resources to push them forward.
All.
All.
What is left for the guys?
Look for the guys.
Mm.
They're doing well already,
Oh,
and they're doing enough.
is that?
We haven't even gotten to their level.
But is that
So
an?
let the girls get to their level before we start thinking about who is going to supersede or who's going to be leading. We are trying to push out the girls
Is that an assumption or based on a survey or a report?
based on our experience on the field.
Ah, I see. You know how they say nobody wants to die, but everybody wants to go to heaven. So it seems as if, from your explanation and the conversation we've had so far, that parents are more attentive to the glory around certain professions, and maybe, like you established now, the middle class to the upper class, they are more attentive now to the process over the results. The lower class, would you say that they are more, it's hunger driven, a hunger driven target to that destination? Okay, go and become footballer because we saw that Michael Obi is making it, or or Anthony Joshua, go do boxing because Anthony Joshua just bagged some X amount of money from that fight. Would you say that is the real attention that has been placed, and what efforts is your organization making to bridge that gap or to demystify that?
The underlying reason or ideology is battle for survival.
Okay.
And so because they believe that when they blow,
Mm.
they're very successful,
Mm.
that they are more confident in their ability to survive
Mm.
and for other children
Mm.
to survive than when you just do something you're enjoying.
Mm.
It's not just enough for you to enjoy something from their own perspective. It is to blow so that we can just survive, we can just live. And it's not out of place, because according to Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs,
Mm.
hunger
Once you haven't dealt with that issue,
is at the base.
Mm.
And so for them, they're still struggling to overcome that. Those in the middle class and upper class, they're sure they will not be hungry anymore. It's more about fulfillment for them.
All
Okay,
right.
so the federal government initiated the Empower program, largely to address the skill acquisition gap, the need for that, and also address this hunger issue among the youth and maybe the lower class in Nigeria. How would you assess the performance so far, the progress made, if any?
Of course, progress.
Mm.
They're doing well, but the reality is, it is addressing the need of, I can say maybe, of course, not even up to 50%.
No, it's not. I mean, because if we're looking at it at face value, for instance, they stated that the senior special assistant to the president on job creation and youth empowerment, Mr. Afolabi, that was in the office of the vice president, Mr. Afolabi, he mentioned, for instance, that 30,000 naira monthly was paid to 500,000 youth,
500,000.
beginning from December 2016. So hopefully they might have grown that number to date. But 50%, is it? Do you think it's? I mean, we're going too far. Or
like we're really aiming high.
Don't you think we're aiming too high?
We're aiming high, but the reality is nobody wants to be left out of this journey and the pursuit of living, so to say. So if I'm not part of the 500, then I really, really want to do something. And that's why individuals are still striving, still making effort, pushing on their own and not waiting to be part of Empower.
Mm.
And of course, other organizations, non-governmental organizations are coming in and doing their bits.
Mm.
I mean, different people are doing their bits in their corners
Mm.
so that, you know, the government cannot do it all. We know. Even 500,000, we can give kudos to them because they're already trying. But the truth is, it's not reaching anywhere.
Okay.
All right, Lagos, let's go on a break now. When we come back, we'll take your comments. We see them coming, and we'll talk more about particularly the research that was done about house girls in public schools and perhaps why your focus is on girls in your foundation. We'll be back. This is Lagos Talks 91.
So much budget.
Well done.
Thank
Speak your
you.
mind, though.
Yeah.
Government, though, falling right.
No, we must actually appreciate them and credit them for the
Yeah.
little they have decided to do.
And encourage them to do more.
So they can do more.
Sounds political. Well, okay.
Not just political, because if those have not been doing it, nobody has held them accountable.
Yeah.
And nothing has been done. So if they decide not to do it, fine. But it's too little. The margin is wide.
It's wide. Yeah, it's wide.
It's just because I don't have figures. I can't say this is the percentage of those who have been. But 500,000, we're talking about millions between 2016 till date. Like millions have joined the group again. So when they're just on 500,000, you have a long way to go.
Today is 17th, right?
17th, yeah.
Visit any of our branches to open an account. My name
You're playing music?
Uh-huh.
wedding photographer. I'm expected to be creative always and provide satisfaction to my clients. Then I do that by listening to my favorite tunes and brain-stimulating content that relaxes my mind and inspires my thoughts. My radio provides me all this. My radio, my dial, Smooth 98.1.
We're going on a music break. Please bear with us. Music break is going to last for 4 minutes. And then while we're at it, please send in your messages, ask your questions. Feel free to interact with us, please.
Yeah. When we come back, we'll go straight to messages and then we'll continue the conversation. Oh, let me call my gate for Victoria. Hello, Victoria. Good morning. On outside the door. Okay. Bye. Oh, come on.
What areas would you like us to touch? After we've handled.
Okay, the content of this empowerment, empowerment is in different folds, not just economic empowerment.
Yeah.
We have the life skills, we have some other things you
Okay.
do to empower
Okay.
children,
Different
not
angles
just
to it.
language empowerment.
Okay, let's go back. Mics are up. Very live. Up the Wall, as rendered by Jakeem Joyner. Back to the studio here on Smooth 98.1. It's 26 minutes before 10 o'clock. We have Shofumi as a special guest. She is the Monitoring and Evaluation Officer at the Youth Empowerment Foundation Nigeria, YEF, Oluwashefumi Arasi. Thank you for joining us this morning for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll have messages on WhatsApp.
Yes, we do. So Edgar Fabukorodu says, we have refused to do away with colonial curriculum. It teaches us nothing but to depend. That's how our mentality has become structured around paper relevance. That's relating to, referring to our earlier conversation.
Mhm.
And then Yinka says, hi guys, this conversation today is very much needed for young ones, especially from junior secondary level. I was a victim because I was in science class because my older sister was in the same class previously. Now I felt I wanted to study in computer science because she also studied that, but I realized I hated chemistry. So of course I didn't make the core science subject for it. I ended up studying sociology in university just so I can get into uni. I've since graduated, but I must say it affected me because I'm still confused as to what exactly I want to do and be. I'm just working and earning salary. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience,
Exactly.
Yinka.
It speaks the heart of a lot of Nigerian youth.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are doing the jobs that they didn't sign up for. in
No,
the
they
first
just
place.
like you mentioned, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You just go in there and do what you need to do to survive, to get put food on your table, clothes on your back, and shelter as well. So when you're now comfortable, then you can think of being a musician, an
So
artist.
we see that stomach empowerment is the most common form of empowerment around
Wow.
these climbs.
Stomach empowerment.
So beyond that, I would like you to break it down for us. Different forms of empowerments, as you know.
Okay. You can empower a set of people economically. That's you're trying to boost their financial capacities and level in different ways. You can take them through trainings. You can put them through apprenticeship, jobs, make them learn what it takes to secure something to do, a job that will bring them money. And then we also have social empowerment, how to have good relationship with others, how to behave in the public place. That involves the etiquette,
Yes.
the communication,
The soft skills you
the
spoke
soft
of.
skills, and then some parts of the soft skills. Some other parts of the soft skills teach you how to stay in a job, work related, career empowerment. It helps you understand what it takes to what you need to add to your certificate to get that job, to stand out amongst the millions applying for different positions. And then that you will not get in your classroom, in your school. Okay. And then of course we have cultural empowerment.
Yes.
Yeah.
That will help you
So is that to do with citizenship, understanding where you're or what you're, or understanding the culture of a place or a people? What exactly is the culture?
and surviving.
All right. Okay.
It teaches adaptability.
All right.
Aha.
Surviving in strange places
Okay.
and able to
So how to integrate? wherever you
tolerate others.
Mm.
go. All right.
And that's one thing that we need a lot now in Nigeria.
We need it because it's very important to adapt to the cultures or the traditions of the people where you find yourself situated at, especially where, in cases where you are being, I wouldn't say redeployed, but if you're being relocated, due to the nature of your job to another state. Well, can that apply? Can that skill, if you're trained in Nigeria with maybe you're culturally empowered in Nigeria within this skills acquisition space, can that be exported?
It will, because when you're trained in Nigeria to be able to adapt to other skills and to tolerate other cultures and beliefs and ideologies, wherever you find yourself, if you move to even to where's the farthest place, I mean somewhere very far, like in Australia or something, at the poles, I mean, you can understand people easily and tolerate them and allow them express themselves. The idea is exercising your own rights should not infringe, should not breach, should not violate other people's rights. So you exercise your rights within the confines of what is available to you, and so you're conscious of someone else.
Yes.
And then you're able to tolerate them.
Yes.
And don't just we're so judgmental in this part of the world. We easily just conclude.
So just know how to live with people and live with tolerance.
Yes.
All
and
right.
then that will help you cope in the job you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, now let's look at another aspect of skill acquisition. We know that we talked about training, talked about school, which is some of the things you offer, but how about mentorship? So one of the ways for young people to gain a skill is by having a mentor, and perhaps we don't talk about this enough. So some people do this through job placement. Some people do it, we now have different types of mentoring. It could be from afar, where you study someone's life, you follow closely even if you never meet the person, or in the event where you have the opportunity to interact with the person one-on-one, have sessions with the person. What case would you make for mentorship as a form of skill acquisition for our young people today, particularly for those who say they cannot afford to do certain things, or they were not exposed in the course of their education? Well, how would you make a case for that?
It is very vital in the acquisition of skills for young people. It's like job-related skills. Okay.
Even social skills, the skills you mentioned, cultural skills, all the forms of skills you mentioned.
And we do not, the system we have now in the organizations, the professions, we do not really make provisions for mentorship. And because we so to say assume I don't have time, I don't have the resources, we're kind of minding our businesses. I have so much on my desk, I have so much to do, I have so much to catch up with, I don't have time for those younger people. We realize this, and then in one of our empowerment projects, we involve this job shadowing thing, job placement.
Okay.
We place young people, like they've just finished their junior secondary school, they're about going into senior secondary school. Some of them have an idea of what they want to do, some don't. Okay, so if you have an idea of what you want to do, like you want to be a banker or a lawyer, then we place you in a law firm for a period of 4 weeks. And then you learn about the work ethics, you learn about the career pathways, you learn about the routine activities that they do, and then like the basics of what it takes to be in that profession. And then you now decide afterwards, do I really want to do this, or do I want to change my mind, or am I good for this? So when you're resuming for your senior secondary school, probably you're already in senior secondary school 1, and then in the second year, there is a lot more motivation. There is a target, a focus. I mean, you can see it's something you have seen. And so if you're able to put more effort, you're able to challenge yourself, you're able to work hard at it, and it's very important. There's another aspect of this mentoring.
All right, I'll hold you on that thought. We'll come back so you can share that. It's very, very important points you just made here, especially helping youth to decide what areas to major in terms of education. Let's take a break. You're listening to Smooth Breakfast and this Lagos Talks 981. Stay with us.
Wow, the time is flying.
That's nice. What? Break, have you?
The time is flying.
That's what happens
we'll
all
see.
the
Yeah, we'll see. Very interesting. Please don't forget that laugh.
Okay. Yes, the other part of mentoring.
How come I'm just looking at our Instagram page? How come we don't look at our requests?
What's that?
Our requests.
What's that?
Then we don't repost things, particularly when somebody that has sense.
Oh, Instagram.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
on Instagram.
Wise man once said, the more you sleep, the further away you get from your dreams. At I Invest, we believe the same principle is applicable to your money. We believe your money should
So,
never ever go
what
sleep.
sort
It
of
should
people
always
do you
be
have
hard
in
at
your
work, making
program?
more money for you
Like,
day and
when I say
night,
what sorts,
24/7.
what level of
Delivering
education,
valuable insights that will
experience,
make your dreams
Okay.
come true.
what's the word?
Ask
Competence.
how I Invest can make your
Okay,
money
in our
work
program,
non-stop. Well, I
we
Invest
we
works
work
to
with
allow you to safely purchase and manage treasury bills and other
we do in school and out of school. For in school, we have those who are in year one, then those in that have just finished their junior school. Then for out of school, we have those who have finished their SSC, secondary school. Okay, for the employability, we put employability and entrepreneurship.
Okay.
We put those who have finished secondary school in entrepreneurship programs, and then those who are still in school in employability program.
Okay.
Although employability could be for anybody, but
Finish school for school as by university. Yeah?
no, secondary schools. We work with young people, secondary schools, primary schools.
Okay.
Or
You
the
don't
more with
handle
secondary
undergraduates
schools.
at all?
Undergraduates we do, but not on
Oh, in the projects you have.
not on economic empowerment projects. It's more on health and so.
Makes sense.
Hand washing, oral rehydration therapy, complementary feeding, and more.
Various printed messages to inform and educate on good health will be distributed to all caregivers, plus free family planning services across all primary health care centers in the state. Pregnant mothers will also receive antenatal care and drugs. Date Monday 15th to Friday 19th July 2019.
This activity is supported by the Lagos State Ministry of Health.
And Lagos State saving 1 million lives.
Ready for summer? Travel culture is now
Sure
in
is over.
Lagos. Join us to explore
Please come back and share that final thoughts.
I think we've covered it. I mean, we've done youth empowerment policy. Okay, yeah, we can just end with government policies to promote youth empowerment.
Really, I'm not very conversant.
Conversant to that, okay.
The policies.
Okay, then we can just talk about what your organization does.
Okay.
We have only
This last thought is the other form of mentoring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then messages.
or visit us at Post 8
Just have more messages. Just have more messages. Okay.
www.travelculture.com. Culture with a K.
With some car insurance, you pay a lot and have covers you don't want. And with others, you pay little. But then you're not well covered. To avoid this happening, Axar Mansard has AutoFlex, the car insurance where you choose and pay only for the covers you want. This way, you pay what you want, and above all, you'll be as protected as you want. It's easy and quick to do from your mobile, tablet, or computer. Take out your car insurance with ease at axarmansard.com/autoflex. Autoflex by Axar Mansard. Create your own car insurance and pay only for what you choose. Axar Mansard, redefining standards.
Hey, Dad.
Abida, who is this?
Dad, meet T-Buddy. T-Buddy, meet my dad. I'll be back.
You have sit down, young man. What do you do?
I'm into
Female anatomy, Abi?
no, sir. Fitness and
What are your plans for my daughter?
sir, I'm just
Dad, T is my instructor.
Trust issues can make you suspect anything. But when it comes to calls, Airtel Smart Talk puts your mind at ease. So free your mind. Enjoy a flat flat rate of 11 kobo per second to colo networks, plus 7 naira access fee on first call of the day. Dial star 315 hash to join. Instructor, Abi, oh yeah, show me your license.
Dad!
Airtel, the smartphone network. This is Kylie Bakari.
Oh, I like.
Are listening to 98.1.
Mics are up. Welcome back, and this is Lagos Talks 91 and Smooth 98.1, part of Smooth Breakfast with me, Valentine.
And Ayo Myra Essay.
Our special guest has been, and still is, Oluwaseun Fumi Arasi, the monitoring, I keep saying mentoring, this is mentorship we're
The
talking about.
mentorship.
Monitoring and Evaluation Officer at the Youth Empowerment Foundation Nigeria, YEF. She's here speaking to us about skills acquisition for youth in line with the celebration that was commemorated on Monday for United Nations World Youth Skill Acquisition Day. But before the break, we were talking about different forms of mentorship and how you step in.
Okay, I just talked about job placement,
Mhm.
and then the other part of mentoring that we do or that we have done before is actually getting a professional who is going to mentor a particular person, young person,
Mm.
and then it's quite not just on a particular career alone, but it's all encompassing, it's full. You want to mentor that young person on career, you want to mentor the person on socials, body grooming, and all. So we had this particular program where we had a facilitator, like a consultant, who came, and then after facilitating, then she offered up and said she was going to mentor a particular person who is interested in fashion design.
Mhm.
And so this lady had been put into apprenticeship for
Yeah.
fashion designing. And so because this other woman is also vast in that, she has a business in that.
Mm.
So she's mentoring her. So beyond just teaching her the core of fashion designing, she's also teaching her other parts of life, how to continue progress
Brilliant.
and do many things for herself. And it took a whole year for that. So it was not just 4 weeks in a particular place, but a whole year communicating and relating with this particular young person. And so that's another part
Brilliant.
of mentoring.
Brilliant.
Right. Thank you so much, Seun Fumi, for being a part of the conversation this morning. It's been really mind-opening and helping us to think beyond and what we can do to ensure that we have young people in Nigeria who are upskilled. Now, the work you do at Youth Empowerment Foundation, can you just quickly, in just a few seconds, tell us about it?
Okay, Youth Empowerment Foundation is into, as the name implies, empowering young people. We have a number of thematic areas. We work in education, health, sports for development, economic empowerment, that secure livelihood,
Yes.
and then gender-based violence,
Oh, nice.
abuse and violence. So that's under child protection.
Yes.
We're really into child protection. So when we're working, any case of child protection issues, we
You pick
find
it up.
we address and we ensure we follow it up to logical conclusion.
Thank you so much. That is really appreciated, and that's a very important aspect that shouldn't be ignored.
Where can people, social media handle very quickly, how can people follow you?
Okay, Youth Empowerment, YEF Nigeria.
YEF. Yeah.
Yes, YEF Nigeria, www.yefnigeria.org.
Okay.
Okay.
And also on Instagram, YEF Nigeria.
Mm.
On Facebook, YEF Nigeria.
All right. This is YEF Nigeria.
Okay, I'm sorry, YEF Nigeria.
Awesome. Ayo, we're done.
We're done. Thank you, Lagos, for being a part of the conversation right from 6 a.m. up until now. Don't forget, even though we are out of the studio, the Juni is going to be here shortly.
All right. Hope you've had breakfast.
Wow. So you've been here since 6
Hope you have
Yes,
had breakfast if you're
yeah.
hungry.
Well done,
Yeah, for me.
it's a nice one.
Yeah,
Thank you so
much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Ah, no. Thank you for
Well
coming.
done. And I see you're based in Bode Thomas.
Yes.
Wow.
Well done.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Enjoy the rest of the day.
Yes.
You too.
I hope you enjoy the rest
I
of
think
your day.
I could come take pictures with Mercy.
Yes, please. Somebody should come. Let's come and take pictures.